Austin, my bald brother.
He gave you that. You started the sentence with my bald brother and provided no context.
I thought you were already know. He gave me this. He was my secret Santa. What's up, guys? It's your favorite Shaky. Let's talk about how to become a DM. Listen, I feel like you're gonna be like, but Shaky, you've done this video before. No, those were my top 10 tips on how to be a DM. This is more like how to prepare for your first DM session, because we've all been a baby DM at one point, and it's scary. And so I'm gonna walk you through how to hopefully not be as scared. You're still gonna be scared, especially if you're like me, because you're a people pleaser at heart, and you won't listen to your friends when they tell you that it's been a good D&D session, and you're just gonna be like, well, what if it wasn't? But bonus step. Step 0, listen to your friends when they tell you it was a good session. Alright, step 1 is to familiarize yourself with the DMG. In this scenario, let's all just close our eyes together and imagine this scenario together. You are getting ready to prep for your first ever D&D session. It's gonna be like a couple months, 2 months, 1 month, whatever you wanna do. It's a ways away. You've never DM'd before. The first thing you want to do is familiarize yourself with the DMG, the Dungeon Master Guide, not the DMV. Don't get that confused. Familiarize yourself with the DMG, familiarize yourself with the rules. In no way am I saying become a rules master. I'm not a rules master. I'm more of a vibe DM. I just go on the vibes and I rely on my wonderful player, Alfred, pictured here, to tell me the rules. He's great like that. So if you have somebody that is experienced in your campaign, know that it's going to be okay to rely on them a little bit. If you're worried that they won't like it, just talk to them, ask them if it's okay if you lean on them for questions regarding the rules. But at the end of the day, remember, you're God. What you say goes. Don't worry, you're not gonna have to stop the session and be like, oh my god, I need to find this in the DMG. Don't waste the time, play for vibes. Just be like, hey, this is how I'm ruling it, let's move on. But beforehand, you're still gonna wanna know how general combat goes, and role-playing interactions goes, and stuff like that. Maybe you wanna also look up how setting a DC works, and how stats work as well, and just knowing what different types of roles you could ask for. Read the DMG, at least the main bullet points of it, and familiarize yourself with that. Number 2, figure out your story / figure out the theme of your story. So I say this with a slash because I feel like there's 2 types of writers. There's the type of writer who's like, I have everything planned. I'm going to have them do A, B, C, and eventually they're going to get to G. And the G is going to be the big bad. I'm not like that. I went into my first DM session of my campaign that I'm currently running having no idea what I wanted, where I wanted this to go. So what I did is I figured out the theme that I wanted for the campaign, which was abuse of power. And that way, I snuck that theme subtly into every small fight, so it was easier to connect it all once I did have that rounded out idea. I just connected it all, and it was super easy to be like, oh yeah, that fight that we had in session 2 can connect to this session 30 fight because that theme was consistent throughout. So if you're super overwhelmed by the thought of planning out a year-long or however long campaign, just pick a theme and figure out the details later. Sometimes your players will even give you an idea and they'll be like, oh my god, what if she's planning XYZ? And you're like, I was actually planning C, but yeah, let's do XYZ, that's a lot better. And so sometimes you end up getting a better idea for your campaign in the middle of your campaign anyways. So don't stress about it too much. You don't have to have everything planned before session 1. You don't need to have everything figured out, and you don't need to have every session be amazing and be totally gut-wrenching and feel like it's moving the plot 100% of the way. Sometimes little actions that the players will walk away and be like, oh, that was a fun and cute session. Well, later, you can make them be bigger later. You can make just a little girl that they met in the woods be so cute and fun, all of a sudden that little girl is a devil that they're fighting later on, and so it has a bigger impact later. You don't always need to have a big reveal every session. That's going to get tiring for you, and it's going to get tiring for your players. They will not trust you. They won't trust you already, but no matter what you do, if they're throwing things at them every session, they definitely won't trust you. Step 3, world building. I feel like this is a very much, it can be like an overwhelming step for a lot of people, because when you say world building, you're like, oh my god, I have to make an entire world. No. If you're like me, yes, because I love doing that, but like, no, you don't have to do that. Oh, start small. If you're overwhelmed by the concept of world building, just start with the city that you're gonna have them in, or the town, or the little farmland, or the forest that they're going to be in. You don't have to have a huge overworld idea and know what all the forms of government are and know how the gods play into the religions and all of that. Just start with the city. Most of the time, you're going to world build and you're going to put so much effort into it, and your players won't come across it for another 6 months. So don't waste your time writing a bunch of details before the campaign, freaking yourself out when your players aren't even near, they're not even getting near interacting with those pieces of your world. Be flexible with your world building. For example, when you're creating some NPCs that are going to be part of the city that they're in, maybe you have made these NPCs and they need to enter a specific park to interact with them and to meet this NPC. If they instead do not go to the park at all and are anything like my players and don't do anything that you plan for at all, instead of going to the park, they go to the library. And instead of making Bob the librarian greet them, just have the NPC have a reason to be in the library. This can help with improvisation a lot, so instead of making this Bob the librarian, you have a fully fleshed out NPC, and it just makes you seem like you're so much with it to your players, even though you're like, I'm winging it 100% right now. Which brings me to another point of, you gotta get okay with improvisation. It's gonna be 50 to 70% of what you do as a DM. It's really scary, I get it. You gotta be okay with it. You gotta be okay with also telling your players if you need a second, if they've thrown you off, you don't have to be Matthew Mercer or Brennan Lee Mulligan. It's okay to take a second and think about what's happening and then continue on the story. Because most of the time, guess what? They have editing. I know they live stream a lot, but also like Dropout has editing. A lot of things you see online have editing. So they cut out the ums and the moments of silence for them to think. So it's okay. Everything you see online isn't real, but become okay with improvisation and write down what you improv. Otherwise, you're gonna have a hard time when you're trying to plan for the next session. Just take a quick note if they run into an NPC and what their name is, or if you had to come up with a shop or something, just jot it down quickly on the side so it helps you remember. Number 4, read your players' backstories. I know a lot of DMs are worried about their players won't be interested enough in their stories, or that they won't be able to hold their players' attention. This is a great way to do it. I know I talked about this before in our 8 tips to keep your players interested video, which if you haven't watched it, maybe go watch it. If you haven't, go watch that video, go watch it out. I go more in depth on how to keep your players interested. But this is one of my biggest tips, is read their backstories. It's a surefire way to keep them interested is if you take their story and implement it into the story. They are the main character, right? So why shouldn't their backstories have anything to do with the plot? Don't just read these stories and then forget about it. Read them, take notes, figure out where your themes could be implemented and figure out where they could be nested into the storyline in the plot. Sometimes, maybe even it helps form your plot if you haven't thought of one yet. It can be really beneficial, and when you have that moment when you're playing the session and you bring up their backstory, the phone's gonna go down, the attention's gonna be on you, and they're going to be invested. Number 5, take a breath, man. Let's all do it together. it's gonna be okay. At the end of the day, it's just a game. It takes so much guts to go up in front of your friends and DM. I get it. I still get nervous, and I've been DMing for years. Let me say it does get better. I pinky promise you. It's never gonna be as bad as the first time. But it's gonna be okay. If you're playing with your friends and they're not nice to you, get new friends. If you're playing at a store and there are a bunch of random people and they're not nice to you, find a new store. No. Also, anyone that's saying you're not doing good enough should just do it themselves. It takes a lot of guts to go up and DM. It's hard. It's a lot of work. After sessions, all they have to do is show up. That's not hard. So you say, I'd like to see you do it. And I slap them. Don't slap them. We do not condone violence. All my online friends are watching this and they know me as a murder hobo, but we do not condone violence. I have a tendency when I play video games to not care about anything besides killing every NPC that I see. It's caused some problems in our friend group.
Something to unpack, I think.
Here, either she gets beaten by a squirrel, or she beats a squirrel.
Yeah, everyone's obviously going to put their money on our friends, but maybe we could talk her into not just annihilating that squirrel.
No, I am not doing this.
I'm just over there like, let's go, Kiri. Let's go. The squirrel is ready.
It grows up to a larger size.
The squirrel jumps up at you and kind of just dap, 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 dap right on your face. How do you hit the squirrel?
She grabs the squirrel and throws the squirrel down. Which I feel like it's just in the rules, and I have to say it. When she throws things, when she's raging, she has a +2 to damage. So I'm just saying.
So
I feel like she'll just kind of like dunk the squirrel.
Like, are you grabbing the squirrel whole, or like by the tail, or?
Like around the body. She's not a maniac. No, it's fine. Anyways, I'm playing a barbarian in our online campaign so I can continue my murder hoboing stuff. If you would like to watch it, the Twitch stream's in the link below. Anyways, those are my main steps for starting your first campaign and getting ready to be a first-time DM. It's very scary. I know that people are going to overthink it and you're going to be too hard on yourself, but at the end of the day, you're telling a story with your friends. That's it. You don't have to get too nitty-gritty about the rules. Don't worry about memorizing a 382-page book. You're going to be fine. Just know the core concepts, know the theme of the story you want to tell, be okay with improvisation, and just have fun. You should not be going and being just so stressed out that it's ruining your mental health. If it's doing that, tell your friends and take a break. Take a step back. Because more importantly than anything else, you should be having fun. It should be relaxing. And you should just be having a good time. Anyways, that's my thoughts. If you guys ever want me to go more in depth for my prep style for getting ready for my campaign sessions, I can absolutely do that. If you guys have any tips as well for first time DMs, please leave them in the comments below. I also like reading them because sometimes I'm like, oh damn, I didn't know that. But anyways, if you guys did not know already, I am in an online campaign every bi-weekly on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Brewsnbuttonmashing's Twitch, which we will link below. It's pretty cool. 2 tables racing against each other in order to win. And I will win because it's girls against boys and girls rule. I'll beat those boys up. But anyways, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Shake it up! Hold on.
You okay?
No. Remember having that thing where your throat just all of a sudden is the Sahara Desert?